My family laughed at me for delivering pizzas and called me the failure until their cards started getting declined. Now they finally know who was keeping them afloat. I wasn't sure if I should even post this, but I've been stewing for days, and honestly, I just need to let it out somewhere. 10 days ago, we threw this big fancy dinner downtown for my mum's 60th birthday. I was actually kind of excited about it. Got her a vintage record player she'd been eyeing for ages, splurged on rush shipping just to make sure it arrived in time. I even showed up early to help get things ready, set up the gift table, helped the staff sort out their sound system. They were having the usual Bluetooth issues. My brother Nate flew in from out of state with his wife and kids. Derek, my other brother, drove in with his family too. Even Aunt Marlene came, and she never shows up for anything. Dinner started off fine. The food was great. Everyone was chatting, catching up. Nothing unusual. Then came the speeches, and that's where it all went downhill. Dad stood up first, raised his glass, started talking about how proud he was of the life he and Mum had built together. And then, with a smirk, he dropped, "We raised 3 boys. Well, 2.5 maybe." People actually laughed. I just smiled tight and took a long sip of water. Then it was Mum's turn. She looked around the room, all teary-eyed, and said, "I'm so blessed. I have 2 amazing sons, a brilliant surgeon saving lives, a sharp lawyer who just made partner, and one who still delivers pizza at 35. And the whole room burst out laughing, like full-on belly laughs. I just sat there, gripping my glass so hard my hand started to shake. But no, that wasn't the end of it. Nate chimed in. "Remember when he said he'd run his own company one day?" More laughter. Tessa, his wife, added, "At least he finally stopped asking to sleep on our couch." For the record, I stayed with them for 2 weeks, 4.5 years ago, when my apartment had water damage, and I brought them dinner every night as a thank you. Then Dad added, "Some kids just never grow up, but we love him anyway," flashing that smug, condescending smile. Even my teenage nephew jumped in. "Uncle Cal's still living in Grandma's basement. I haven't lived with my parents since college. I have my own apartment downtown." And then Aunt Marlene goes, "Maybe next year he'll get a real job." I didn't say a word, just set my glass down and walked out. Nobody followed. Nobody even noticed. I paid for the record player using the card I left behind at the bar and left the whole scene behind. My phone stayed quiet for hours. Finally, around midnight, Mum texted, asking where I'd gone. I didn't bother replying. Here's the part nobody in my family ever cared to learn. Yeah, I deliver pizzas a few nights a week, but not because I need to. 6 years ago, I started building a payment processing platform for small businesses. Nothing flashy, just tools to help with cash flow and basic operations. I bootstrapped the whole thing from scratch. I still deliver pizzas because honestly, it keeps me sane, gets me out of the house, gives me FaceTime with real people, and it's solid market research. I learn how small businesses actually run. But my family, they've never asked. They see pizza delivery guy and stop right there. Case closed. What they don't know is that for years, I've been the one quietly keeping them afloat. When Nate's practice was circling the drain, I paid off $1,500 of his med school debt anonymously. When Derek needed help with his down payment, I wired him $1,400, pretending it came from a generous client. When the roof caved in at my parents' place and insurance bailed, I paid the $1,180 bill through a made-up insurance appeal. I've been making quiet payments on their mortgages, car loans, credit cards, every month. Not because I had to, but because I could. My business does well. I'm not rich, but I do okay. I didn't want anyone to feel like they owed me. I just wanted to help. But after that birthday dinner, yeah, I was done. 3 days later, I opened my accounting dashboard and shut it all down, cancelled every automatic payment, every scheduled transfer, called the bank and cut off all linked family accounts. Didn't hack anything, didn't touch what wasn't mine. I just stopped helping, stopped being their hidden safety net. And of course, it didn't take long for the cracks to show. 2 weeks later, my phone exploded with texts. 6:05 a.m. Mom, my card just got declined for coffee. WTF? Yeah, because Dad's been managing the money and I've been quietly padding their account. 7:15. Derek, why is my mortgage flagged unpaid? Foreclosure notice. Because I'd been covering your shortfalls for months, man. 8:47. Dad, the truck's getting repossessed. What's going on? Because you haven't made a full payment in over a year. 10:18. Tessa, they froze our accounts. Tuition's in jeopardy. Because you're buried in debt and I've been quietly wiring cash every month. 11:33. Mom again, this time a voicemail. Please call me. The house. They're saying it's not ours. Where are you? It is yours. Still, just not on my dime anymore. Now that I'm not covering their bills anymore, they're just behind, and they don't know how to handle it. I haven't answered a single message. Nothing. They've tried everything. Calls, texts, emails, even reached out through people we both know. Yesterday, Derek actually showed up at my apartment. He was pounding on the door, yelling about how his kids might have to switch schools. I just cranked up my music and waited him out until he finally left. And look, I get it. Some of you are probably wondering why my family even treats me like this. Truth is, I've always been the odd one out. Nate and Derek, they were always the golden boys, great at sports, good grades, did everything right. Meanwhile, I was that weird kid taking apart computers and learning to code on my own when I was 13. My parents never really understood me, and when I dropped out of college to work on my first startup, and yeah, it bombed hard, that was all the proof they needed to write me off. That one failure stuck in their minds like glue. No matter what I've done since, they still see me as the screw-up. They made up their minds years ago that I was the family disappointment, and they've never once stopped to reconsider. And sure, part of me does feel bad. These are real problems they're facing. People I used to care about are drowning financially, but there's a bigger part of me that's just finished. For the first time in my life, they actually need me. They just don't know it. Meanwhile, I'm still out here delivering pizzas, still running my business, still living my life, but now I'm stuck wondering what comes next. Do I tell them it was me helping all along? Do I wait and see if they figure it out? Or do I just cut them off for good? All I know for sure, I'm done being the family doormat. Update 1. Okay, holy crap. First off, thanks to everyone who commented on my last post. I had no idea it would blow up like that. I'm actually writing this from the back room at work between deliveries, so sorry if it's a little messy. Anyway, yeah, a lot has happened since then. The day after I posted, my parents came to my apartment. I was in the middle of coding a new feature for my platform when the buzzer went off. I checked the building cam on my phone and saw both of them standing outside. Dad was pacing like a maniac, and Mum was jabbing the buzzer non-stop. I muted the feed and went right back to my code. About 20 minutes later, my phone started lighting up with texts. Dad, we know you're home. Your car is here. Mum, please Cal, we need to talk. It's an emergency. Dad again. This is serious. Open the door, now. I flipped my phone to silent and kept working. Another 30 minutes went by before they finally gave up and drove off. As soon as I saw their car disappear down the street, I grabbed my keys and headed to my delivery shift. Figured my apartment wasn't exactly safe at that point. When I showed up at the shop, my manager Tyler pulled me aside, said my brother Derek had called the store 4 times asking when I'd be in. Tyler was weirded out, like, why does your brother care about your pizza schedule? I just shrugged and told him it was some dumb family drama. Sure enough, about an hour into my shift, Derek shows up, with my dad. I was folding boxes in the back when they walked in. Derek didn't waste a second. He launched right in, asking what the hell was going on and why I wasn't answering my phone. I played dumb, said I didn't know what he was talking about. Then Dad cut in, saying all their accounts were messed up. Bills weren't getting paid. Everything was falling apart at the same time. He asked if I had any clue what was going on. I actually laughed, said, how would I know? I'm just the loser pizza guy, remember? Derek's face turned bright red. This isn't funny, he said. My house is in foreclosure. My kids might have to leave school. Dad chimed in, said Mum was having panic attacks and couldn't sleep. I just shrugged and told them I had deliveries to make. Maybe they should call their banks or a financial advisor instead of tracking me down at work. As I tried to walk past, Derek grabbed my arm. I yanked it away, hard, told him, flat out, don't touch me. That's when Tyler walked over, asking if everything was okay. I just looked at him and said, these customers were just leaving. Derek looked like he was 2 seconds from throwing a punch, but Dad pulled him away and practically dragged him out of the shop. When I got home after my shift, my phone was a disaster. 36 missed calls, voicemail inbox completely full. Everyone had reached out. Mom, Dad, Nate, Derek, Tessa, even Aunt Marlene. It was like full family panic mode. The texts were, something, Nate. Whatever you're doing, stop. Tessa's crying. We might lose the kids' college fund. Mom, the bank says we've missed 3 mortgage payments. That can't be right. We've never missed a payment. Derek, my credit score dropped 150 points overnight. This has to be some mistake. Dad, son, we're seriously worried about you. If this is some kind of mental breakdown, we can help. That last one actually made me laugh out loud. They really think I'm having some kind of meltdown. That night, I crashed at my buddy Leo's place. He's my business partner, the marketing side of our platform. I do the tech. He's the only one who knows everything about my business, my family, all of it. When I told him what was happening, he just shook his head and handed me a beer. They're gonna figure it out eventually, he said. Maybe, I told him, but they've had 20 years to ask what I actually do and never once bothered. So why would they start now? The next morning, Leo pulled up something interesting. Leo had been checking our shared company inbox and spotted something unusual, a message from Tessa, Nate's wife. Apparently, she stumbled across our company website and submitted a general inquiry asking about financial consulting services. No mention of me at all, just one of those vague info requests. Leo didn't reply, but still, it was the first real sign that someone in the family was starting to put the pieces together. Later that day, I got a text from Mom. She invited me to dinner on Sunday at their house, said everyone would be there and they wanted to talk. No mention of money, just a casual family dinner. I didn't answer. Still, out of curiosity, I drove by the house that Sunday evening, and sure enough, every single car was there. Nate's SUV, Derek's beat-up sedan, even Aunt Marlene's ancient Buick. A full-blown family meeting, without me, almost definitely about me. I parked a few houses down, pulled out my laptop, and logged into the back end of the payment platform I built. I could see all of their accounts live, every transaction, every alert, every meltdown. Derek had just taken out one of those shady, high-interest emergency loans. Nate and Tessa had pulled money from their kids' college fund. Mum and Dad had called their bank 15 times in the past week. They were spiraling, and I was watching it all unfold from the comfort of my car. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Turned out, it was my nephew. Yeah, the same kid who joked about me living in Grandma's basement during the birthday dinner. He must have gotten a new number. Hey Uncle Cal, I know everyone's trying to find you. They're freaking out about money. Dad says you're having some kind of mental breakdown, but I don't think that's true. What's actually going on? I stared at that message for a while. Kids, only 16. Not really his fault the rest of them are idiots. But I wasn't ready to give anyone a pass yet, so I just replied, nothing going on. Just busy with work. As I was getting ready to leave, the front door of my parents' house suddenly swung open. Derek came storming out, slamming it behind him. He jumped in his car and sped off, swerving so hard he nearly wiped out the mailbox. Guess family dinner wasn't going so well. I drove back to my apartment, finally feeling like I could return now that they were all gathered somewhere else. As I was unlocking my door, my neighbor poked her head out. She said a bunch of people had been banging on my door earlier, looked upset, said they stuck around for 10 minutes, yelling my name. I thanked her and stepped inside, double-checked the locks behind me. Then I finally did what I probably should have done 2 weeks earlier. Checked my email. There were dozens of unread messages from family, each one more frantic than the last, but one stood out. Tessa, sent just an hour earlier. Subject, we need to talk. Message, I found your company site. I know what you've been doing. Please, can we talk? Just you and me. No one else knows. Not yet. Well, crap. Someone finally decided to Google. I closed the laptop, poured myself a drink, and just sat with it for a while. Tomorrow was definitely going to be something. The next morning, I was halfway through my coffee when the buzzer rang again. I checked the building cam. It was Tessa, alone. I let her up. I was curious. She looked rough. Dark circles, red eyes, like she hadn't slept all weekend. She stepped inside, clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The company, she said right away. You run that payment platform for small businesses, right? You're the CEO, you've been helping us with money, and now you've stopped. I didn't confirm anything, didn't deny it either, just looked at her. Why? She asked. Is it because of the birthday dinner? Cal, we were just joking, that's all it was. That's when I finally lost it. Joking? Are you serious? You've all been treating me like the family punchline for years. None of you ever bothered to ask what I actually do for a living. None of you even cared. You decided I was a failure, and you've never let me forget it. Tessa started crying, said she didn't know, that none of them knew. I told her to leave, and I told her one more thing. If anyone wants answers, all of them, tell them to meet me at the pizza place tonight, 8 p.m. After she left, I texted Tyler. Family might show up at work tonight, just a heads up. His reply, family drama equals good tips. Bring it on. Then I texted Leo. They're starting to figure it out. Meeting them tonight. Might need backup. Leo replied instantly. On my way. Wouldn't miss it for the world. So now I'm here, back at the pizza place. It's 7:45 p.m., just 15 minutes to go. My family still has no clue what's really happening, or why their entire financial lives are imploding, but they're about to find out. And honestly, I'm kinda looking forward to it. Update 2. The showdown finally happened, and it was even wilder than I expected. Sorry it took me a couple days to post this. I needed time to just sit with everything and process. So I was up front folding boxes when the whole crew came through the door. 8:02 p.m. on the dot. Mum, Dad, Nate, Derek and Tessa, all looking wrecked. I mean, even from across the room I could tell Mum had been crying. Leo was already posted at a corner table, sipping a soda and pretending to be a regular customer, just like we planned. Tyler glanced at me with that look. That them? I gave a small nod. He immediately busied himself at the ovens to give us space. Guy's a legend. Luckily, the dinner rush had passed, so the place was nearly empty, except for a couple quiet tables. My family hovered awkwardly by the door until I motioned to the empty tables. They shuffled over and sat down, looking around like it was their first time in a pizza joint. I finished folding the box I was working on, took my time washing up, then walked over. Nobody said a word for a solid 10 seconds. They just stared at me in my pizza uniform, goofy hat and all. Dad finally broke the silence, asked if we could talk somewhere private. I said nope, either we talk here or not at all. Right on cue, Derek started in, said they'd been trying to reach me for weeks and asked if I was behind all their money problems. Typical Derek, straight to attack mode. I just looked at him and said, why would you think that? What could a pizza guy possibly do to your finances? Nate, trying to play mediator, spoke up, said Tessa found my company online, asked if it was true, if I really run a financial services platform. I nodded. The look on their faces, honestly, almost made everything worth it. Mum gasped. Dad's jaw actually dropped. Derek turned beet red. Then Mum started crying again, asking why I kept my business a secret all these years. That's when I snapped. I told them I did tell them, 6 years ago, when I first started, reminded them of that family dinner where I tried to explain my idea, how excited I was, and how they all laughed. Dad called it another one of Cal's crazy ideas. Derek told me to get a real job instead of messing around on a computer. Mum just looked worried and asked if I was sure it was smart, given my track record. After that, I stopped telling them anything. Why bother? They'd already decided who I was. The screw-up, the loser, the one you use as a bad example for your kids. Derek tried to interrupt, but I kept going. Asked if he remembered where his lake house down payment came from. Watched his face as it clicked. Then I turned to Nate. Asked if he ever wondered how his med school debt magically dropped right when his practice was floundering. Looked at my parents and asked if they really believed their roof insurance suddenly reversed course by itself last year. Dead silence. Then Dad asked, genuinely confused, why I helped them all these years, only to cut them off. Was he serious? I brought up Mum's birthday party, repeated every joke they cracked about me, the pizza guy punchline, the basement line, the maybe next year he'll get a real job jab. Nate tried to downplay it, said they were just joking. That's how our family works. I asked if they'd noticed the jokes only ever go one direction. They make fun of my job, my choices, my life. But if I so much as hint that Derek isn't the hotshot lawyer he thinks he is, or that Nate's oversized house might be a bit much, suddenly it's off limits. Tessa, who'd been quiet this whole time, asked what my business actually does. I kept it simple. Payment processing and cash flow tools for small businesses. Kind of like Square or PayPal, but more niche. Derek scoffed, said it didn't sound impressive, asked how much I actually make. I didn't give a number, just said, enough to cover your mortgage for 8 months without you even noticing. His face went pale. Then Mum hit me with the guilt trip, said it hurt that I kept secrets, that families should be honest, asked how I could cut them off without warning, knowing they needed help. That's when Leo stood up and walked over. He introduced himself as my business partner and said he'd heard a lot about them. Added that it was enlightening to finally meet the family Cal had been secretly supporting for years, the same family that mocks him to his face. Dad got defensive, said they had no idea I was helping. Leo asked why they never once asked what I actually do for a living. One simple question could have changed everything, but they were too busy with the pizza jokes. Then Derek stood up so fast he knocked over his chair, said this was all BS, accused me of being manipulative. Said if I had a problem, I should have spoken up instead of playing games with their lives. I laughed right in his face. Told him I did speak up. Every single time I asked them to stop. Every time I tried to talk about my business and got shut down. Every time I defended myself and got ignored. That's when Tyler walked over. Derek was getting loud. Tyler asked if everything was okay. I told him it was fine, but maybe it was time for my family to leave. Mum refused to leave, said we needed to fix this, that they were in serious financial trouble, asked what I wanted from them, and honestly, that caught me off guard. I hadn't thought that far ahead. A part of me just wanted them to squirm. I told them I wanted a real apology, not sorry you feel that way or we were just joking. I wanted them to actually own how they'd treated me all these years. Derek scoffed, said I was holding their finances hostage for an apology. Real mature. But then Nate surprised me, told Derek to shut up, looked at me and said he was sorry for the birthday comments and for never showing any real interest in my life. It sounded genuine, but it felt way too late. My phone buzzed. Text from my nephew. Are you with my parents? They're freaking out. I replied, yep, family meeting, at work. He texted back, can I come? I have questions. I sent him the address. Derek saw me texting and demanded to know who it was. I ignored him. Then Dad finally asked what they really came to ask. Would I help them again? Their bills were piling up, credit frozen, scores dropping fast. I said I'd think about it, but things were never going back to how they were. No more anonymous help, no more pretending to be the failure they made me out to be. Mum started crying again, said they might lose the house. Dad looked genuinely scared. For once, he wasn't looking at me with disappointment, just fear, and that's when my nephew walked in. He'd taken an Uber. Derek told him to go home, said this was adult business. Kid ignored him, walked straight to me. How long have you been running your company? He asked. 6 years, I said. Are you really delivering pizzas just for fun? I nodded. Can I see your office sometime? Sure, I told him. Derek exploded, accused me of turning his son against him. I stepped between them and told Derek to back off. He shoved me. Huge mistake. Tyler and 2 kitchen guys were on him in seconds. Tyler told him to leave or the cops would be called. Derek tried to argue, but Dad pulled him toward the exit. Before they left, Dad turned to me and asked if we could meet again tomorrow, somewhere private. Said they needed time to process. I told him I'd text them a location for 10 a.m. Not their house, not mine, neutral ground. After they left, Leo came over and clapped me on the back, asked if I was okay. I didn't know how to answer that. Then another text from my nephew. Sorry about Dad, can I still come see where you work? I replied, yeah, come tomorrow. I'm meeting everyone at 10. He answered, awesome. They don't even know it's your actual office, do they? Smart kid. Final update. The meeting happened yesterday, and wow, still trying to wrap my head around it. But since you've all followed this from the start, I owe you the ending. I got to the office around 8 a.m. to prep. We're in a converted warehouse downtown. Nothing flashy, but definitely not what people expect from a pizza guy. Open floor plan, around 20 employees, glass conference room, classic startup energy. I had our office manager put together folders for each person, full printouts of every payment I'd made for them over the past 6 years, mortgage payments, loans, mysterious deposits, total, just over $310,000. At 9:58, my nephew texted that they were downstairs. I met them in the lobby, Mom, Dad, Derek, Nate, Tessa, and the kid, all standing around looking totally lost. Our receptionist Jenna was handing out visitor badges, trying not to laugh. She knew the whole story. Then they saw me, wearing actual business clothes, not the pizza uniform. Mum gasped. Derek's jaw dropped. My nephew grinned like he was watching live TV. I led them to the conference room. Coffee was already set out. Everyone sat down, dead quiet. Nobody knew how to start. Finally, Dad asked if this was really my company. I nodded and pointed at a framed article on the wall. TechBlog did a profile last year. Headline reads, How this bootstrapped startup is challenging the payment processing giants. Big photo of me right under it. Then I pulled up our financials on the big screen. Revenue, growth, client list. Derek choked on his coffee when he saw the numbers. I explained what we do. Payment processing and cash flow tools for small businesses, mostly restaurants, retail shops, service providers. We're not huge, but we're profitable and growing. Dad asked how long this had been going. I reminded him I tried to tell them 6 years ago when I first started. Even pulled up a screenshot of an old group text. I'd invited them to my tiny one-room office for a launch party. Only Mum showed up and left 20 minutes in because she had a hair appointment. Nate looked embarrassed. Derek, he was already in opportunity mode, asked how much the company was worth, if I had investors, if I planned to sell. I ignored him and passed out folders, told them to take a few minutes and read. The silence was loud, page after page, proof that I'd been quietly keeping their finances afloat for years, while they mocked me. Mum cried. Dad just shook his head, stunned. Tessa finally broke the silence, asked why I never told them I was helping. I said that, at first, I just wanted to help. No strings, no guilt. But over time, as they kept treating me like a failure, it turned into something else. A kind of test. How long would they keep ridiculing me while depending on me financially? Answer: years. Derek got defensive, of course, said it was manipulative, that no one normal pays bills in secret and then throws it in their face. That's when my nephew spoke up. Asked Derek if he'd ever Googled my name, ever asked what I actually do. Derek had no response. Nate tried to step in, said what's done is done, asked if I'd help them get back on their feet. I said I had a proposal. I slid over a stack of papers Leo helped me prepare. If they wanted help, it would be formal this time. Clear terms, loans, not gifts, documented, repayment plans. Each of them would meet with a financial advisor. I'd cover the cost to figure out why their finances were such a mess in the first place. They'd acknowledge my business publicly, to the whole extended family. The same people who laughed at me during the birthday dinner, and most importantly, no more jokes, no more pizza digs, no more basement comments. One snide remark, and I'm done helping, permanently. Derek immediately pushed back, said I was being petty, controlling. I told him no one was forcing him to agree. The bank could take care of his foreclosure just fine. Dad asked for time to think. I gave them a deadline, end of the week. Said I was leaving for a business trip after that. Not true, but it added pressure. Nate and Tessa accepted on the spot. Apologized again. Mum, still crying, asked why I kept delivering pizzas if I ran a company like this. I told her the truth. I enjoy it. Keeps me grounded. Gets me talking to real people. And honestly, it's great research since we work with restaurants. My nephew asked if we had internships for high school students. Said he's been teaching himself to code. That was the best part of the entire meeting. I told him to stop by next week. I'd introduce him to our dev team. As they started to leave, Derek asked, finally, without the attitude, if I really would have let them lose their homes and wreck their credit. I looked him straight in the eye. You all laughed when Mum said she had 2 successful sons, and one who delivers pizzas. Nobody noticed when I walked out. So yeah, I would have. The room went silent. Dad was last to leave. He paused at the door, looked around at the office, at the team working just outside the glass. Then he asked, "Are you happy?" Not successful. Happy. I told him yes. Not because of the money, because I built something on my own terms, without chasing anyone else's approval. He nodded, looked older than I've ever seen him, said, "I'm proud of you." First time I've ever heard those words from him. I just said, "Thanks." No hug, no big moment. Just, thanks. That was yesterday. This morning, I got texts from every one of them, even Derek, agreeing to my terms. Dad asked if I'd come to dinner next week. Haven't replied. Leo thinks I should make peace now that I've made my point. Maybe he's right, but I'm not sure I want to go back to pretending everything's normal, because it's not. The dynamic has changed, permanently. What I do know is, I'm done hiding who I am, done letting them define me, done being the family joke. And if that means some ties don't fully heal, I think I'm okay with that.